Welcome to Capital Talk, the award-winning program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya, and now more than ever. Now, my guest today just happens to be chairman of the second oldest party in Kenya after KANU. We're talking about Ford Kenya. You remember the heady days of the multi-party democracy, the party of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Masinde Muliro, Michael Kijana Wamalwa? Well, my guest today is the chairman today. This past election, they aligned themselves with PNU. A lot of the candidates lost their seats, but they still retained 7. And a further one, my guest was nominated a member of parliament, making it 8 from Ford Kenya. But we understand there's a lot of friction within Ford Kenya right now. We'll find out today where this party is going. My guest today, former member of parliament for Webuye, now nominated member of parliament, Honorable Musikari Kombo. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Me.
Okay, so let's get right down to it. We understand there's a lot of friction within Ford Kenya, that they want to oust you. They want you out of Ford Kenya right now because, in their words, you let them down. What do you tell them?
You understand there's a lot of frictions in Ford Kenya? That's your understanding?
Yes.
But we in Ford Kenya do not see a lot of friction whatsoever. There have been a number of, a few articles in the paper, which people saying, and I think the biggest one came from somebody who claimed it before Kenya in Kitale, a Mr. Buyela,
yes,
who actually stood on the ODM ticket in the last election.
Not Ford Kenya.
Not Ford Kenya. And that's the statement that comes out, and people claim there's a friction in Ford Kenya. For us, the response, and the man was answered very clearly from Kitale itself, and they said, we have no friction in our party, we soldier on. We may have had problems in the last election, so did all political parties. KANU went to the last election having had 60-something members of parliament. How many do they have today? 11? Or something like that?
Correct.
Something like that?
Yes.
So all political parties in the last election
Yes.
went through some turmoil. But that does not mean that it is the end of political parties.
And Ford Kenya is as strong as it always was?
Ford Kenya is a party of resilience. And let me tell you, because of its resilience, it will pick up and move to do what it does best, ensuring that there's multi-party democracy in this country.
Mheshimiwa, let me ask you an obvious question. Any regrets about aligning Ford Kenya with PNU in this past election?
Not at all. Not at all. Let me tell you, I took a very deliberate decision in the year 2005 when I supported the banana debate. And the reason was simply this. I looked at the country. I saw that a big chunk of the country was trying to demonize one community of this country. And I said, this is not right. I said to myself, the best thing we can do for this country is to make sure that we do not demonize one community so that you have the rest of Kenya versus this one community. And I went to the party. And that again is the strength of my party. I take decisions after the consultation. We put these things on the table and we decided to go the banana route. Now the politics after the banana and the orange route, the country was then put on a permanent political campaign, a permanent one. So that from 2005 up to 2007, all that we could see is a lot of hate campaign being propagated in the country. Yeah. And for us as Ford Kenya, we said to stabilize the country, let us stick with the president, let us stick and not keep on wandering from one place to another. Because in terms of multi-party democracy, it's also very important that political parties are sober, that political parties do not just exist for the sake of one issue and disappear once that issue is out of the way, be it an election or whatever. So I have no regret whatsoever. We as a political party have made our contribution. We believe strongly that part of the stability in this country is due to our party.
Tell me something, Mheshimiwa. What happened on December 30th and the 3 months after that? Was that surprising to you? Because you're talking about...
It wasn't. It wasn't. Let me tell you. And I actually, as early as September, I did say to many, many people that the coming election in December is going to be about hate. So for me, and I said it as early as September, that it's going to be about hate. And it came to pass that the campaign, there were no issues whatsoever. Yeah. No issues. It was just hate. This community has so much. Okay? Yeah. And I've actually talked to my colleagues on the other side of the divide, even I think last month or this month. And I said, now tell me what was happening. And one of them looked at me and laughed. He said, you know, Kombo, Kibaki had done a lot for this country. And we honestly had no issue against him. But he gave us a gift when we looked at the Minister of Finance and saw that it's all headed by his tribesmen. Yes. He said that's all we could do. Because we had no issues with him. The economy was going well. Yes. The roads were being built. Yes. And everything was happening. He said we had nothing. But this is politics. Yeah. He gave us an opportunity. We used it. And it worked.
Oh my goodness. And now they got what they wanted, if you will, right? Everybody got what they wanted in the end.
The country did not get what it deserves because there was no reason for those people to die, for individuals to get what they wanted. So I don't think I would sit here and say they got what they wanted. I think we, and in Fort Kenya, we put the country ahead of ourselves as individuals or as a political party.
And you're saying others didn't?
If they did, those 1,000 plus people should not have died. Shouldn't.
If Michael Kijana Wamalwa and Jaramogi were around, and Masinde Muliro, founders of this party of yours, what would they think of what's happening today?
I think if Muliro was alive, he would be sad. If Jaramogi was alive, he would be sad. Mike would be horrified at what has happened in the country, especially January, February. I think he would have been horrified. And I don't think any one of them would have allowed the spilling of blood. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And subsequent to that, the Grand Coalition, the power sharing, is that a way out? Is that a stopgap? You know, we're just stopping the wound for a while and then it's going to, come out again?
I'm afraid, to be perfectly honest with you, it was the best thing for the country at that time to stop the bloodletting. I think it was absolutely necessary. It was good. But I don't think enough has been put into it to say what next. I mean, take the events of the last weekend. When the Prime Minister goes to Kisumu and says, I will bring you the President, and the crowd roars back and says, no, we don't want. I don't know whether you are there, but I saw it on the box.
Correct.
Isn't that telling us something? When speakers stand up and said, our journey has not stopped. We are going to get where we aim to go in. We will go to State House. Okay? So this shows you that the coalition, people are in it but each one is doing their own thing in order to prepare themselves for 2012. Now the danger in a situation like this is that the militias that caused havoc throughout the country still exist. Yeah? And so that like a gene which has been bottled up, they will just wait for another opportunity. Yeah? When somebody is dissatisfied or whatever, and they'll pop out and cause the same havoc. So as a country, we've got to actually zero in on how do you deal with these militia groups that have sprung up. We've created them, and they're going to be bigger than we, the leaders who created them. We may not have any control over them. Right. That crowd that was telling the Prime Minister, no, yeah? It is part of a creation that he has. And now he has got to bring them down. So that Kenyans who are now, in terms of civic and political education, very aware, very alert, but no responsibility for their actions at all. So we have got to go back and said, yes, you have a right to be aware, but you have a responsibility as a citizen.
Mheshimiwa, what would happen if President Kibaki went to Kisumu today, or if he had been there that weekend?
I think nothing.
They would welcome him.
I think they will welcome him. Kenyans behave sometimes when they're in a large group, they will behave in a certain way. If President Kibaki, and I hope that President Kibaki takes the next trip very quickly to Kisumu. Yeah.
And Raila the same thing to Central.
Yeah, exactly.
But are you worried though? At the end of the day, are you worried that what happened on February 28th, the signing of that accord, may not last?
It has got to last. I mean, my worries aside, it has got to last for the sake of this country. If we didn't, as leaders, did not put in sufficient energies, in fact, most of our energies should be going into ensuring that the accord lasts for the sake of our country.
Mheshimiwa, I want to talk more about that, this grand coalition, grand opposition, the whole shebang. I want to talk about that in a moment, but first we're going to take a break. My guest today, former Member of Parliament for Webuye, Honorable Musikari Kombo. We are talking about Ford Kenya, the second oldest party after KANU, and the future of Kenya. You are watching Capital Talk only on K24. We are back in a moment. Welcome back. My guest today, former Member of Parliament for Webuye, now the chairman of Ford Kenya, Honorable Musikari Kombo. So, Mheshimiwa, you said the accord must last. Grand coalition cabinet. Will it last? Should it last?
It should last up to the time they said it lasts. And then after that, we should have put in place programs, structures that can ensure multi-party democracy. Because if the Grand Coalition completely took over, then it will kill multi-party democracy in this country.
So it'll kill the dream of Jaramogi Oginga, it'll kill the dream of Michael Denham.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want it to last just for the 5 years as the agreement says. After that, we must have put into place structures. And the most important structure or issue for me today is the new constitution that has been promised. The constitution will then tell us how to go to an election. The constitution will tell us who is responsible for what. The constitution will help to fix the weaknesses. In fact, we are fortunate that we are trying to now make this new constitution at a time when we have seen a lot of weaknesses in our systems. So we can fix all this. I, for example, used to one time hold the position that we need a centralized system, and so on and so forth. Seeing the events of the last 3 months, I have now said to myself, Kenya is so tribalized. Everybody wants to have a share in the system. And the best approach is devolution. So we have to devolve so that a political party then can decide to work with so-and-so or so-and-so. In other words, entrench coalition making into our system. And that way we can move forward smoothly and give an opportunity to everybody to make their own decision what sort of share would they want to have in the system.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what will propel Kenya to move on.
Ford Kenya do you see it as a part of the new generation, the next phase of this country? Because Ford Kenya has already split to New Ford Kenya, and the members of New Ford Kenya are saying, you know what, Honorable Musikari Kombo, all due respect, he needs to step down now. His time has come and gone. What do you tell them?
I think you don't know the history of Ford Kenya.
It's not me who's saying, it's your colleagues.
I'm telling you. You don't know the history of Ford Kenya. Ford Kenya has weathered all these storms before. Remember we were one Ford?
Mm-hmm. Original.
Then we were Ford Kenya and Ford Asili. Why? Wrangles. And there were men like Masinde Muliro who believed in consensus, tried to bring them together. It didn't work. Jaramogi died, and immediately he was gone. Wrangles between Raila and Wamalwa Kijana. Yeah?
Yep.
So Raila left and formed NDP. Soon after Raila was gone, of course we had the elections.
Yes.
And for a period, we remained quiet for some time. And then Wamalwa died, may God rest his soul in peace. I took over. Immediately I took over Wrangles. So what you see now is nothing new. That's why I told you Ford Kenya is a resilient party. NDP of Raila, where is it?
Nowhere.
Ford Kenya is still going on. Yeah?
Yes.
So New Ford Kenya was born out of Wrangles, out of people who may have thought they are better placed to lead, just like perhaps Raila thought he was better placed to lead than Wamalwa Kijana, and so on and so forth. But the resilience of the party did not allow that to happen, and the resilience of our party will not let anything happen. Ford Kenya is fairly focused. Even when you talk about devolution, if you look at our manifesto, Ford Kenya was the first political party to talk about devolution of power. Mm-hmm. Yeah? So people come in, borrow what we have said, we are just perfecting it, and we'll soldier on, and our resilience will see us through.
Your thoughts, Mheshimiwa, about a grand opposition to the grand coalition?
I think it is an interesting thing, because I'm worried that in the House, as I told you, grand coalition could easily destroy proper checks and balances against the system. I would go quite strongly, and I don't think people should be worried about the grand opposition. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it can work very, very closely with the grand coalition government for checks and balances.
As long as people retain their parties, right?
As long as people retain their parties.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic, sir? You said you're hoping this grand coalition works, but everybody at the same time is aligning themselves for 2012. You can see, I mean, they're literally aligning themselves. Yes. Is that also a dangerous thing? Because they're supposed to be the same team, but they're not quite.
Let me tell you what. The government between now and the next election will be a lame duck government. This is the truth. Because what is going to happen is that just like between 2005 or just before 2005, when there was a lot of wrangles within the government itself, nothing was happening. People are now going to spend a lot of time realigning themselves for 2012, and very little work is going to be done. For me, if we can deliver on the Constitution, just that one single item, then this grand coalition will have succeeded. I think let's just focus on delivering on the Constitution and going on as a country without retreating back to the sad days of January. And I think we'll have done well.
So we can limp ahead as long as we have that constitution.
Absolutely.
Prime Minister Raila Odinga said he'll deliver, or he'll help to see a constitution delivered in a year. You think that's possible?
Why not? Everything is in place. Virtually, the areas of disagreements after bombers are very few. I don't see why not we cannot deliver. And my party will participate in ensuring that that does happen.
The hate that we saw the first 3 months of this year, you think that will ever go away, or can we learn from that?
I think the hate has taught us something. You know, for 40 years, we were pretending that we were one nation. It has come, it has not destroyed us. So yes, we can learn from it and say, what can we do differently to make sure we move on as a nation? And I think it's possible that we could learn those lessons and move better, in a better way. Yeah.
And if someone asks you, is Musikari Kombo here to stay? Is he going to soldier on with his party? What would you tell them?
I am absolutely here to stay. I will serve my party up to the year 2010 when my mandate expires. If at that time there are challenges and I feel at that time I want to renew my mandate, then we shall see what happens at that time.
And if there's a palace coup, or it's not possible?
There's not going to be palace coup. There's not going to be any palace coup, and I'm sure I can tell you, you can talk to as many senior members of the party as you like. They will tell you there will be no palace coup. Because part of this palace coup is frankly a creation of the press. They will pick on a small thing and they will build it up. I've just given you an example, or let me tell you of a person in Kitale who claimed he was for Kenya. Half an hour later, he is on a platform speaking as ODM. And the press does not pick up that at all. They would rather tell the story when he was lying that he is for Kenya than they tell the truth that the man is not for Kenya. I mean, why don't you do your homework? Why don't you do your homework? A lot of those people who are making noise have actually left the party at one time or another. And they're not our members as far as we're concerned.
They're the disgruntled ones.
I don't know whether they're disgruntled, but if somebody leaves the party and goes to run for an election in another political party, what business has he got coming back and saying, I want Musikari Kombo to go? What business has he got? None whatsoever. Discipline within political parties is something that we have got to nurture. And for us in Fort Kenya, we are ensuring that there is discipline.
And moving forward, as the second oldest party, there's a lot to teach these other newcomers, isn't there? These newcoming parties.
Let me say this. At the beginning of, 5 years ago, it was Fort Kenya that talked about coalitions. In fact, one of our members, Noah Wekesa, has gone around the world talking about coalitions, because we believed in it. At that time, we were being ridiculed. Today, those who ridiculed us are the ones saying, the coalition is here to stay.
But you talked about it then.
Then, So I think we are very clear what we want to do.
Excellent.
It doesn't matter what happens. In a true democracy, in a mature democracy, take the UK, the Conservatives at one time were almost wiped out.
Correct.
if they were in a situation of panic, they would have destroyed themselves, self-destructed, because they have lost badly to Labour. They didn't. Today, if elections were held,
They could win.
they could win.
Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for your time. Good luck going forward.
Thank you very much.
My guest today, former Member of Parliament for Webuye, Chairman of Ford Kenya, Honorable Musikari Kombo. He says time is on their side. These are just cycles and waves that the party goes through, but Ford Kenya, the second oldest party after KANU, is here to stay. And the one thing he would want between now and the next election is for a constitution to be put together. Thanks so much for joining us. You have been watching the award-winning program Capital Talk, only on K24, where we are all Kenyan all the time.